No, so what I was saying was, the alcohol in the wine. I think when people start drinking wine, they should start drinking at a low alcohol kind of level. Because if you're not used to wine or any other alcohol much, if you go with a big wine that has a lot of alcohol, you typically won't be able to taste almost anything else that's going on, especially if you're not, again, used to it. So I started off with a Riesling when I was first starting wine. Rieslings are typically low alcohol, 10, 11%, sometimes even 8, 9%, whereas some other wines go up to like 16%. So starting at that low level, and with a Riesling, which is very aromatic, a lot of fruit, it was really easy to pick out flavors. So when I would look in a book, and I'd start reading about Rieslings, and I always recommend if you're just starting getting into wine, you buy a wine like that that's pretty simple, and you get a book and you read about it while you're tasting it. You're like, okay, this book says I should kind of get these flavors out of it, because when something says it tastes like apple, it doesn't actually taste like an apple sometimes, but it tastes close enough. There's a wine version of that flavor, which it takes a while to get used to. But if you're kind of looking at it and you're smelling and you're really focusing on trying to pull that flavor out, you'll get used to it, and over time that flavor will just start jumping out at you. And again, especially with a low alcohol wine, it's easier to get a lot of those flavors. A Riesling is a varietal that it's, I'm not saying simple, because some of them can be very complex and they can age a really long time. But at a basic level, it's one that is very accessible. Especially, and for a new wine drinker, like when I was just starting out, I liked stuff that had a lot of fruit and that had flavors that were a lot of fun and tropical and stuff like that. So I started there, and over time I kind of built up to more complex kind of stuff, to where now, by the end of it, you get to something that's more aged, like a Bordeaux or something like that, and like, okay, now I get it when they're talking about these flavors that are really hard to pull out, but over time I've practiced and I've gotten, to the point where I can pull them.
How long did it take you to get to that point?
And it's an expensive habit, because you have to try a lot of wine. Either that, or you find friends who work like in restaurants or in wine shops, and they do a lot of tastings for free oftentimes. You get in there, but it's about tasting as much as you possibly can. It probably took me about 2-3 years to get to like a really high level where I can taste something and actually tell you what the varietal is, like, blonde or something like that. But you don't have to get to that point. I'd say if you start tasting over a year's period of time, you will get so far, you won't even imagine where you've come, where you started out, where you didn't even know, that it was a light-bodied wine. By the end of it, you'll know you're like drinking something with a lot of alcohol that's maybe even a little bit older than you started out with. So it does take a little bit of time, but I think the first year, if you taste, 2-3 wines a week, somehow, get a taste here and there of something, and try as much diversity as possible, you'll definitely get your foundation built after, like, probably about a year. Yeah.